Alright, what's going on guys? GoobyHoops here. Welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to be talking about the Atlanta Hawks and their recent coaching change and how that could affect them going forward. And before we get into it, make sure to like and hit the subscribe. We're going to be doing a March Madness bracket challenge where I will buy the winner an NBA jersey of their choice, so make sure to sub to stay up to date on that. And let's get into it. All right, so the Atlanta Hawks just recently fired Nate McMillan, who was named the interim head coach back in March of 2021. They made a conference finals run. After the season, he was awarded the full-time head coaching position. And right off the bat, it was looking like a pretty good fit. Unfortunately, during the 2021-22 season, the Hawks took a pretty big step back. They finished 9th in the Eastern Conference that season and then worked their way through the play-in to eventually lose to the Miami Heat, where they lost in 5 games. Now, albeit they did have some injuries throughout that series, so take that with a grain of salt. But coming into this next season, they go and get DeJounte Murray. Expectations are pretty high for them, as they had just been to the conference finals 2 years ago. But come the All-Star break, they're sitting at about the same point they were the season prior. They're currently, at the time I'm making this, 31-31. 8th in the Eastern Conference. Throughout the season, they've just looked pretty dysfunctional. Trae Young has had some public disputes with Nate McMillan, and it seemed like he had just completely lost the locker room. The defense for them has been terrible all season. They've been in the bottom third in the league for defense, and they took 2 pretty bad losses just before the All-Star break. So I think it was only a matter of time really before they were going to fire Nate McMillan. But they happened to do it at kind of a strange time, just at the All-Star break, basically. And, it's not very often we see a coaching change at this point in a season for a team that is potentially going to be making a playoff run. So they went ahead and hired Quin Snyder, the Utah Jazz former coach. And we've seen what Quin Snyder was able to do with Utah over the last couple seasons. They were one of the top defenses in the league. Snyder worked very well with Donovan Mitchell, who is kind of a similar player to Trae Young in regards to, not being really much of a factor on defense, but being an extremely good offensive guard. Ball dominant. And we saw how Snyder was able to kind of hide Mitchell's flaws on the defensive end. And, it does help to have Rudy Gobert, but I think that the Hawks definitely have some pieces that he can work with. I mean, just taking a quick glance at the roster, DeJounte Murray is a guy who is capable of being one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. You've got Clint Capella, who has been a good defender over the years. Onyeka Okongwu, we're not exactly sure what he's going to be quite yet, but he's shown flashes on both ends of the floor. And DeAndre Hunter, he's a great athlete as well. I mean, we could see him be a big part of that team's defense as well. Also, can't forget to mention Saddiq Bey, who they picked up at the trade deadline. Big, strong forward, only 23 years old. I think that he's going to be probably a pretty key part of what they're going to be doing going forward. And then you've got John Collins, who has been a talented player, but this year has taken a pretty big step back in terms of efficiency and scoring. I wouldn't call him really a good defender. He probably should have been traded a while back. He's probably a piece that they're going to have to look to move, so it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. As for Quin Snyder, he's been given a pretty long-term deal. I think it's in the range of like 5 years, $40 million. And he's been given significant control over roster decisions. So he's going to be able to mold this team in the way that he wants to. And so anyone who's not buying in, not playing up to standards, they're either not going to be on the floor or they're going to be playing for a different team. And that includes Trae Young. I mean, I believe in Trae Young. I think that he's a good player. I think he's a good guy. But he was a little bit problematic with Nate McMillan, and maybe that was just poor fit. I mean, looking back on it, that conference finals run they made, it was really more just to really good play from Trae Young and favorable matchups. I mean, they were a better team than the New York Knicks in the first round. In the Philly series, the Hawks, they played great, but really that was more about the collapse of the Sixers, and that was kind of the beginning of the entire Ben Simmons drama as well. So, I think two favorable matchups played a big part in getting them to the conference finals. As for the immediate impact that Snyder can have on this year and this season, there's only 20 games left for the Hawks in the regular season. He had his first game with the Hawks last night, where they lost to the Wizards 119 to 116. So it's going to take a couple games before they can even really start to implement anything. But even just some minor defensive adjustments could gain them a couple more wins than maybe they otherwise would have had. But there's just so little amount of time left in the year that I think even just getting out of the play-in and maybe winning a couple of games in the first round would be a huge positive for this team. But come off season, I wouldn't be surprised if we see this team make some major roster shakeups. We're not quite sure if Trae Young and Murray can coexist together yet. John Collins, like I said, probably needs to be moved. They've got a lot of different stuff they could try, and I think they'll definitely make some changes this offseason. But that's about all I have for this video. I just want to give my quick thoughts on that. I'll probably make another video about the Hawks following the season or sometime during the off season, because they're definitely one of the more interesting stories in the league right now. So I'm definitely interested to see what they're going to be doing, and they could go a lot of different ways with this. So once we know a little bit more, I'll go into it a little more in depth. But that's all for today. I hope you liked this video, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.